The Fan Networking, the podcast to connect and promote entrepreneurs and business experts. I'm Tom Riak, an American known as the King of Networking, connecting people and speaking from my studio in Campinas, São Paulo, Brazil. Today we're going to talk with Sebastian Schug, and he's joining us from Burbank, California. Sebastian and I met on the Podmatch platform. Sebastian Schug is an independent multimedia artist holding a Bachelor of Arts in Communication Studies and Political Science. He has a passion for narrating, public speaking, as well as appearing on a multitude of podcasts. Sebastian, welcome. Tell our listeners, as an artist, what are some of your tips to reducing stress in public or media speaking?
Thank you so much for having me on, Tom. So when it comes to public speaking, I know that it is a fear that most people would place above actually dying. And that is really disconcerting when it comes to, public and media speaking, because a lot of artists, a lot of people who actually like to publicly speak, and the number is few, they'd very much prefer if they were confident, aside from not being confident. So if I could give anyone really who struggles with this a fair tidbit of advice, it's to not imagine that the whole audience is in their underwear or anything cliche like that, but really it's about sort of establishing yourself as like the boss of the room. Mm-hmm. And again, I know that confidence is essentially putting on airs at the moment. I've never really been an advocate of faking it till you make it. Right. But really sort of establishing that presence of dominance of yourself in the room and, really being confident in what you have to say. If you're knowledgeable or know about the topic that you're presenting, it should flow easily like a conversation. So I always think of it as essentially just a conversation, not, right, like a speech or something like that.
I've heard from others when we talk about networking specifically, and that involves speaking, but they've used the word genuine. The more genuine you can be, the better. Is that fair?
No, that's very fair, because obviously you don't want to come off as disingenuous. You don't want to put your best foot forward as someone that you're not. So being able to be genuine and transparent with, anyone that you're talking to, whether it be in speech or text,
mm-hmm.
Like literary,
right.
It's never a good idea to come off as false the first time around.
And well, let's say this last year, because of the pandemic specifically, most business mm-hmm. persons, most everybody, students, what have you, have been placed in a situation where they've become media speakers.
Yes.
And what do you say to those people that they're not artists?
It's a matter of definitely adapting. It's not a field that they personally would have had to be in. I think the sort of whole remote aspect of it all amidst this pandemic has been a bit of a blessing in disguise for individuals who aren't familiar with public speaking. Mm-hmm. It's allowed people to be. It's very abstract when it's over Zoom or over Google Meets or any kind of platform that allows for video and audio mm-hmm. communication, because it's not face to face. And I think it allows people ample practice for it. So if there's one takeaway, if we ever do get out of this pandemic, it's that we've been speaking to our computers for so long that we can, go back in person and with a new sense of confidence.
Well, narrating, you prepare, you're a professional narrator. So you do practice. So practice makes perfect, right?
Semi-professionally, yes. Like I said, it's very abstract speaking behind a microphone mm-hmm. when video is really not the thing that you do. Speaking for myself, but having that sort of free form of consciousness, having a script in front of you. If I happen to be narrating something that has a script, mm-hmm. it does put myself at ease to know that, at least my voice can carry the story. I know I know for the most part what I'm talking about when I narrate. Mm-hmm. Maybe I can throw in some personal experiences to help alleviate the whole setting. I don't have to be so stiff and rigid with it. Mm-hmm. Those are a few aspects that definitely help me throughout the process.
Well, that comes from also you study communication studies, right?
Yes. Yeah, that was pre-COVID, actually. I ended up ending my last semester of my senior year when the pandemic just started. So at the end of the day, I had a boatload of experience when it came to group communication, group setting, like, working in a group, as well as, single oral communication, standing up in front of the room and either giving a presentation, giving a speech, and yeah, it definitely helped me in the end.
So it's multi-flex speaking.
Yes, I would say it's multi-flex speaking to a degree.
That's who or what you are?
I never really anticipated myself being that type of person, if I'm being honest. I was often very shy and quiet. I never really had an opinion to boot because I was too afraid of rocking the boat. And a lot of people who...
Well, if you don't rock the boat, there are no waves.
Yeah, no, really. It's you find yourself in a situation where what you end up saying is going to carry weight. So you may as well let that weight be determinant of who you are. And who you are, going back to what I said previously, is, genuine.
Right.
You want to mean what you say. You want to say it with your chest. And again, easier said than done, takes practice. But I do believe that it's something that, can be achieved.
And that's our listeners. They don't necessarily have to be public speakers, but many of them are entrepreneurs, they're business persons, or aspire to be. That's a perfect fit for them as well, right?
Yeah, no, it is. It's an adaptable skill set that can be utilized in virtually any business setting, whether or not it even involves talking at all. Like I said, the whole umbrella of speaking, it also involves what you can say with your words, literally, like in writing.
So we say what we write and we write what we say.
Exactly. No, the whole verbal and nonverbal communication aspects, they do have to link up to some degree because, and that also involves, being present with that person, utilizing hand gestures and facial expressions. Unfortunately, I couldn't match that for you today because my camera is on the fritz, but
well, that doesn't matter. But if we go back to why we're talking, it started with what I have seen, what was written, not what you said. I haven't heard you say anything before. Right?
Yeah, no, I definitely hope that it set the stage for.
Well, it does, and I think that's where that comes. So we're coming to the end of our time, Sebastian, but I do want to thank you for being sharing your experience with us, and hope to be talking to you again in the future.
Definitely. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Where can our listeners find you?
So you can find me on a multitude of platforms. I do have a website under the name of www.sebastianrschug.com. That's R in the middle. That's my middle initial. Primarily when it comes to narrating, you can find me on YouTube under the name Seabass, spelled and sounded exactly like the fish.
Okay.
It's a childhood nickname of mine. But you can also find me simply by Googling my name. I had been a publisher for many, many years up until the pandemic, unfortunately.
Hey, very good. And to remind our listeners, that's Sebastian, Sebastian, and the last name Schug. Okay?
Thanks again. Take care.
Okay. Cafe Networking is brought to us by Focus MI Market Intelligence, an agricultural market research specialist in Brazil, and more information on their website, focusmi.com. Thanks for listening. Until next time here at Cafe Networking Podcast.